All right. Hello, hello, hello. Y'all almost got me. A couple weeks ago, I actually did a live stream. And how about the whole time, y'all? I was on mute. I'm just a chatting away. Almost got me today, but not today. So, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I know that you have other things that you could be doing, whether you're catching this live or watching the replay. Thank you so much for taking 15, 20 minutes out of your day to watch this live stream on today, whatever that day is for you. So very excited to have you. So every Sunday at 5:30, I go live for 15 minutes. And the 15 minutes is an opportunity to share about workplace value and provide talk about professional development, because this is something that we deal with on a daily basis. Professional development isn't something that happens one time. It happens throughout our career, and we evolve as individuals and professionals throughout that time. And so it's definitely a topic that's worth discussing over and over again. So today we are talking about the truth about speaking up at work. So, the truth about speaking up at work. So, this is going to be a good one because it's actually a two-part. Today, we're going to talk about the speaking up part. And then next week, we're going to talk about the staying silent part because they can both be used strategically. So, let me know where you are tuning in from. I would love to know because I want to know, who am I talking to? But it's okay if you're just watching for the first time. But the truth about speaking up at work. So, one of the things that I have actually, before I go into this, let me share this story or this folklore. So there was a farmer, and the farmer had some seeds. Some seeds the farmer decided that they wanted to plant right now, and there were some other seeds that the farmer was like, no, I'll wait for it just in case something is happening at a later time. And and the seeds that the farmer planted, then some of them sprouted and some of them did not. And then there was the bag of seeds that was never, ever planted, and those died. End of story. So, what does this mean when we're talking about speaking up at work? Well, what this means is if we decide to speak up at work, sometimes it's going to land and sometimes it's not. But at least we have an opportunity for what we share to grow and for it to develop. But if we decide that no, we're not going to share anything, then there's no potential that we have to grow or to develop that area. And so we're going to be talking about how can we speak up. One of the things that I've noticed is that when individuals don't speak up, it is for a couple of reasons. One of them being feeling like maybe speaking up means that they're being rude, it means that they're being mean, and that it means that they are being too loud or drawing too much attention. And so because of that, they don't speak up. They feel like, well, maybe somebody else should talk about this. Maybe I should leave this to the person who has more seniority. Maybe I should leave this to the person who has been in this area for a long time. Hi, Shamika. Thank you so much for joining. Maybe I should leave this to the person who. I'll join it from New York City. All right. Whoop, whoop. Maybe I should leave this to the person who has been in the field for an extensive amount of time, right? Maybe somebody else can say it better. And so because of that, we say, well, that's not for me. It's not for me to speak up because I'm going to leave that to someone else. And the other part about speaking up is sometimes we think of it as being loud and vocal, as in I'm going to let everybody know what's going on in my mind and what I'm thinking about and all of these things, right? But that's not it either. It is a balance between demonstrating the value that we have and also honoring the environment and the time that we are in. So it's not just about being loud, but it's about sharing those ideas. And the reason for it is I want you to think about something for a moment. Let's say you say, I'm not going to share anything at work. Now, times that times 10. So it's not just you that's not speaking up, but now other people who are in the workplace are also making that decision to not speak up because somebody else will say it. Somebody else will do it. They don't need my opinion. They don't need anything that I have to share. How does that affect the workplace? How does that affect the work that we do? Just something to kind of think about. The other thing when it comes to speaking up and why it's so important, we'll get to the how, but why it's so important is one of the advice that my mentor that I had, oh gosh, now maybe 4 years ago, one of the things that he mentioned was that people don't know what you know. People don't know what you know. And so, what does that mean? Well, that means that the perspective that we have is only valuable if we share it. If you are someone who works on the front lines, how can we expect people to know the challenges that we are faced with if we don't share what those challenges look like? So, yes, I know that it's scary, but it doesn't mean it's not relevant. And it doesn't mean that it's not helpful because every time we gain a new perspective, it gives us the opportunity to get a bigger picture, to understand how all moving parts are working. So if you're just joining, y'all, we are talking about the truth about speaking up at work. And one of the things that we covered is that a lot of times people think that, we're being rude when we speak up, or that it means that we have to be super loud and speaking all the time. But we're talking about how to do it with intention. And we haven't gotten to the how yet. We're more so talking about the why. And I go live every Sunday at 5:30 Central. And y'all, this time change has got me. I don't know why the time change always get me. But anyways, so here's the challenge I think that comes with speaking up at work. I think the challenge in one word is perfection. It's perfection. We expect to feel really good after we speak up at work, like, yes, I feel amazing. I just said what needed to be said. But y'all, we don't feel that way. Or we expect the timing to be perfect, as in, this is a good time for me to speak up to this person or to share this idea with this person. This is a good time for them, and this is a good time for me. But we can't always guarantee that the timing will be perfect. Or we believe that the delivery needs to be perfect. I got to make sure that I dot all my I's and cross all my T's, and I'm just hitting the points like bang, 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 like just right. I did that. But y'all, the perfection is an illusion. It's not something that we will always have, especially the feeling good about it part. But that doesn't mean that speaking up is irrelevant or that it's not helpful or that it's not useful. I don't know how many of you feel that, right? How many of you have ever spoken up and then afterwards you felt like, what did that felt absolutely terrible. Am I the only one? Please don't tell me I'm the only one. Even if you send me a message, let me know. I am not alone. Okay. All right. So, because usually that's not the case. So how do we get to this point? Well, it's about growth and it's about practice. Yes, the issue of being a perfectionist. Yeah, absolutely. It is an issue, honestly, when we are constantly focused on how can I get to that point. And Shamika, you mentioned should speaking not be an ongoing thing? And that's actually the point. Yes, the point that I'm getting to now. It is an ongoing thing. But as I mentioned before, it comes with balance, right? It comes with balance. It comes with speaking up, evaluating how that situation went. If there is a third party someone else that saw the conversation that can provide some insight, some that can provide some unbiased insight into it. Or maybe even us taking a step back and looking at it from a different perspective and saying, how did that go? How was that received? And in each of these cases, I think that it's also important to note that we can't control how people receive the message. That's the unfortunate part. No matter how much practicing we do how much studying or whatever the case may be, we can't do that. But what we can do is we can ensure that our intentions are clear. And sometimes that may be a direct statement of saying, this is my intention behind this. I'm not sure if that will come across. But one of the best advices that I had received when it came to speaking up is, number one, they say pick your battles and your wars. But the question that we have to ask is, what do I want from this conversation? What do I want from speaking up? When I share what I feel the need to share, remembering that it won't always feel good, what do I want from this conversation? Because that's the key. If we can answer that, that determines and goes back to your question, excuse me, Shamika, that goes back to your question of, should it be ongoing? Is this the time to speak up? Is this the time to share? Is this the platform in which we need to do it? What do I get from sharing on this platform versus sharing in an email or sharing in a phone call or sharing with someone else? Answering those questions. And that's something that I can't give an answer to, nor anyone else can give an answer to. We each have to evaluate and figure out how it goes. And remember, sometimes we speak up and we didn't get the results that we wanted. It doesn't mean that speaking up wasn't the right thing. It just means that maybe it wasn't the right timing or maybe it wasn't the right delivery. But again, it's not going to always be perfect. And that's okay. I what I've seen in the workplace over and over are two different things. I see people who are afraid to speak up because of how they may come across. I mentioned earlier, being rude or just being ostracized, honestly, for speaking up. And I've seen people who are afraid to, or they feel like, maybe three things, that it's not going to help. And so even having that conversation with a colleague or a coworker or a supervisor, these are some thoughts that I have. I don't know if going into detail is worth sharing. That could even be something that's helpful. All right, y'all. Where are we at on time? Got a couple minutes here. Thanks so much for the question. I don't know if there are any other questions. If there are, feel free to put them in the chat. Even if we are wrapping up today, like, there's still an opportunity for me to message or even post about them. Not your question directly and say, hey, so and so sent me this question, unless you want me to. But just sharing that question, sharing that answer with other people, because chances are other people are wanting to hear about it as well. So many times we think that we're the only ones that are struggling with, especially with something like speaking up at work, when in reality, many other people do as well. And remember that reflective question we talked about earlier. If everyone in the office or on your department or team, they're saying, well, given my position or given my experience, there is nothing that I can share that is going to be beneficial. If everyone feels like that, imagine how that affects the progress that the team could be making, or the perspective that the team is missing out on because it's limited in the information that we're getting. And so this week we spoke more so about the speaking up part and questions to ask. What is that ultimate goal that we want to gain from speaking up at work? And it's only 15 minutes, so we're keeping it short. And then next week it'll be more so about the silence part, because there is a balance to that. And a lot of times people don't think about how how silence can be used strategically. So questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Also, let me know where you're joining in from. I always appreciate when y'all send me messages here or when you message me later, because I really do enjoy having these conversations. But on that note, just remembering that the summarizing everything, that perfection, speaking up won't be perfect. The delivery won't be perfect. The timing won't be perfect. We won't feel good afterwards, right? But that doesn't mean that it wasn't necessary. Doesn't mean that it wasn't necessary. And then thinking about, what do we ultimately want from this conversation as we learn to pick our battles. Thank you all so much for joining me on today. Tune in next Sunday as we'll talk about the silence aspect of speaking up or not speaking up, because there is some truth there as well. All right, y'all, I am logging out, and remember to stay adding value. Bye, y'all.